is basically a short summary on why Laurence Shirley, the 4th Earl of Ferrars, is hot garbage. Laurence Shirley became the 4th Earl Ferrars through a strange lineage dispute that involved the death of 9 sons, and honestly it was a mess, and really not too important for the rest of his life. Effectively, this guy was so far down in the lineage that nobody ever expected him to be Earl, so they never taught him any pleasantries. He was once described in an 1809 history article as foolish and selfish, on ill terms with all relations, and a nuisance to both the neighbors and himself. He was also described as cruel and insane by his wife. Laurence Shirley was a very strange, arguably demented man, but we're just going to go over 3 main scandals that happened in his life. They are his marriage and eventual divorce, the murder and the trial, and the scandal surrounding his death. English peerage is complicated, so in order for you to better understand this, I'm going to condense the Wikipedia article. Get all that? Yeah, me either. And that wasn't the whole article, that was just the opening paragraph. So, basically all you need to know is that it goes monarch, duke, marquis, earl, viscount, baron. And these titles are passed down across generations. So this guy, the Earl of Ferrars, was pretty high up there in the social standing. Also, super amusingly, this is still something they do. Like, you still don't have power in the House of Lords or something that you would have in the 18th century, but they still keep track of who is the current Earl of wherever, or the Viscount of wherever, and that's still passed down across generations. So, this is Robert Shirley, the 14th Earl of Ferrars, and I gotta say, 10 generations later, there's still a bit of a family resemblance. Marriage, abuse, and divorce. In 1752, Laurence Shirley would marry Mary Meredith, who, while we have no surviving images of, we do have an image of her state, as her eldest brother was a member of one of the highest classes of nobility, and here I have tried to render as best as I could with what I had to work with. Call this an unhappy marriage would be a gross understatement. Laurence Shirley was horribly abusive, both verbally and physically. He was a frequent alcoholic and had dozens of affairs, resulting in several illegitimate children. Their marriage would only last for 6 years, before Mary Meredith would seek for divorce on the grounds of cruelty, something that was almost never done by anybody in nobility. Mary Meredith was granted a divorce by the court, and according to rumor, they never spoke to each other again. Things weren't all bad for Mary Meredith, though. She supposedly lived a long, happy life in her second marriage, before dying in a sudden and tragic house fire. And the rumor was, though this was never actually confirmed, that Earl Ferrars started it or had it started himself. Murder and trial. After the divorce of his wife, the problems that led to their marriage falling apart in the first place grew worse. He grew more reclusive, more promiscuous, and more violent towards his subjects. In one case, he even attacked them with a knife, and according to yet another rumor, threatened him further if he told anyone. One day, his servant, John Johnson, who had an uninteresting name to rival Mary Meredith, would come to deliver the rent to Earl Ferrars, as was his duty. In a drunken rage, for reasons unknown, Earl Ferrars shot him, killing him almost instantly. By this point, no one was willing to defend him, and tales of his cruelty were so far wide-reaching that he was forced to stand in court to testify. If he was found guilty, the penalty would be death. Similarly to today, the crimes of the highest class are often overlooked due to their status in society. This was not France. They tended not to kill their nobility too often. And the judge, Charles Pratt, who overlooked Earl Ferrars' case, had quite a dilemma. Did he maintain the status quo of overlooking the crimes of nobility? Or did he convict Earl Ferrars and all of his cruelty? If he chose to convict him for years after, people would talk about the execution of this guy. But ultimately, he made the decision to hang him. Scandal. Even in death. Many people... Not only was his death a scandal, but also the vehicle for scandal. No other lords have been hanged since, and very few were hanged prior to him. And this is in 1760. He is one of the few British nobles to ever have been hanged, and people came from miles around to see it. And this is where dozens of the rumors started and spread about him. One of the interesting things about his death is that when he went to be hanged, it was rumored that he wore a suit made entirely out of silver and demanded the rope he was hanged with be made from silk. Because, wouldn't want to be publicly hanged for murder like a commoner or anything. When Laurence Shirley died, they went through his letters and discovered a huge degree of compassion and humility. No, that's not what happened. In fact, what is believed to be his final writing was a trio of lines. In doubt I lived, in doubt I die, yet stand prepared the vast abyss to try, and undismayed expect eternity. Taking his hubris and arrogance with him all the way to the grave. Not much else is known about Laurence Shirley, and his family actually hasn't bothered to dig too much of it up. But if one thing's certain, the tale of Laurence Shirley is a cautionary one, and one that was shared among nobles for years, that no man is above the law, that a life filled with nothing but indulgences, self-satisfaction, and violence will result in nothing but trouble, no matter how high your status is.